Thanks for watching Exclusive with Taghreed Hussein here on Nile TV International. Tonight we are really honored to celebrate the National Day of the Republic of Singapore. And on that special occasion, we're honored to have with us His Excellency Ambassador Dominico, Ambassador of the Republic of Singapore to Egypt. Your Excellency, thank you so much for joining Nile TV International. I know, of course, that bilateral relations between both countries, Egypt and Singapore, are very distinctive relations. Where are we today?
Well, I think our relations are excellent. Egypt was one of the first countries to recognize Singapore back in 1965, so we are very grateful for that. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi visited Singapore in 2015 to mark the 50th anniversary of our relationship. And Singapore President Dr. Tony Tan came to Egypt in 2016. So we have excellent relationships at the highest level and regular visits by ministers, officials to each other's country. So for example, last year, Foreign Minister Sameh Shukri visited Singapore, and we also had Singaporean ministers, especially Minister of the Environment, Grace Fu, who came to Egypt for the COP27. And of course, the COP27 was a very successful meeting, and Singapore was very glad to be able to help with some of the negotiations. For example, we helped to co-chair the negotiations on Article 6, which reached a successful conclusion. Apart from that, this year we had visits of Minister of Energy, Minister Tareq Al-Molla, to Singapore. We had a visit of Minister of Civil Aviation, Major General Abbas Helmi. And from Singapore side, we had the visit of the Singapore Minister of Social and Family Affairs, who is also Minister in charge of Muslim affairs in Singapore. And that was also a very good visit. So over the next few months, until the end of the year, we are expecting more visits from Singapore to Egypt. So we will keep you updated when that happens.
Your Excellency, both countries see eye to eye vis-à-vis regional and international issues of mutual concern.
Yes, in fact, diplomatically speaking, we both champion peace in the world, both Singapore and Egypt. And also because we are sort of strategic hubs in each of our regions, so Egypt in the Middle East and Singapore in Southeast Asia. There are many issues for us to discuss about and also to cooperate on. So this is the major rationale for our relationship.
The commitment towards economic development between Egypt and Singapore and taking our economic relations to a new level.
Yes, in fact, economic development, it is a little known fact that Singapore is the fourth biggest investor from East Asia into Egypt. We have more than $1 billion of investments in Egypt, and in many sectors such as in port, logistics, agriculture, food processing, IT, and others. So our companies here are big companies, and they employ a lot of Egyptian workers, and also they support, through their activities, they support rural communities because they buy agriculture commodities from the farmers, which they then process for further export. So I think Singapore companies are contributing a lot to Egypt's economy and also supporting the local population.
I know that many Singaporean companies come and invest in Egypt and enjoy the investment climate and facilities that Egypt has to offer, especially in the economic zone, Suez Canal economic zone.
Yes, in fact, the Suez Canal zone president will visit Singapore soon to promote Egypt and the Suez Canal zone among the Singaporean businesses. But at the present moment, we have companies that are exploring the investment opportunities in the Suez Canal zone. And of course, the Suez Canal itself is very important for world trade. And a big portion of world trade passes through the Suez Canal, and likewise a big portion of world trade passes through Singapore on the way to China and Japan. So we are two important nodes in the global transport chain, and this is another area that we work very closely together.
Singapore is one of the smartest countries in the world. How is cooperation in the field of technology and AI, artificial intelligence?
Yes, in fact, Singapore is one of the top most, smartest city, one of the smartest cities in the world, with a lot of developments. In fact, more than 90% of transactions with the government can be done online by our citizens. For example, we can apply for a passport online without having to go to the passport office, except only to pick up the passport at the end. So this is just an example of how AI can save time and allow government and also business activities to be conducted more efficiently. So we are having an exchange with Egypt in order to see how we can help Egypt to also implement such ideas. And earlier, maybe about a year ago, we had the AI Institute of Singapore conducted a training for officials and trainers from the Ministry of Communications and IT in Egypt to conduct capacity building in the area of AI.
Nile TV International is initiating Explore Singapore on Nile TV. So we're talking also investment in opportunities vis-a-vis encouraging tourism and Singaporean tourists to come to Egypt, and also Egyptians enjoying Singapore as a beautiful destination.
Well, I think many Egyptians I speak to say that they love Singapore, they have heard about Singapore, they want to visit Singapore. So I think it is, and currently I heard that we have about maybe about 100 visa applications to visit Singapore every month. So this is a relatively small number, and I think we can increase on that. So how can we increase this number? I think we can increase it by doing more promotion in Egypt and also engaging more with the tour companies on what Singapore has to offer. Of course, we can also try work on a direct flight between Egypt and Singapore, and this is what we are trying to do. Of course, it will take time because the airlines of the world are still recovering from COVID, and it will take some time for them to reach back to full capacity. On the other side, I'm also working with the Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities to try to promote more Singapore tourism into Egypt. And we are discussing with them what we can do together, for example, through offering more tour packages, through doing more joint promotion with Egypt on activities here in Egypt, as well as there is a exhibition, a worldwide exhibition called Ramses II, the Treasures of Ramses II, and this exhibition is being organized by a Singaporean company. And until now, they have taken this exhibition to the US, to San Francisco, to Houston, and also to Paris. Currently, the exhibition is in Paris, and the exhibition in Paris will close soon, I think by the end of this month, and then the exhibition will move on to Sydney. So, a Singapore company is helping to make Egypt more well known across the world, and this will help to promote more tourism into Egypt.
We're working for peace, as Your Excellency has mentioned earlier. So our efforts in order to maintain peace and security, especially in conflict areas.
Well, of course, we are working together in the United Nations, and we are also discussing activities as to how we can promote more peace in the world in our respective regions. In terms of actual activities, I think ASEAN is promoting peace in Asia, our Association of Southeast Asian countries, and we are discussing, issues like South China Sea, like issues regarding Myanmar, issues regarding, the Rohingya refugees, and so on. So in our region, we are discussing such things. And I'm sure in the Middle East, Egypt is active in Libya, in Sudan, and other such conflict zones. So I think it is important that we work together to promote more peace in the world.
The 15th of September is a remarkable day, Your Excellency, at the start of your mission in Egypt, now almost 4 years and more. So what did you like most about Egypt and the Egyptians and the people-to-people relations?
Well, I think 15th of September, as you mentioned, marks my 4th year in Egypt. And for me, what attracted me to Egypt is that, Egypt is a very important country in the Middle East, and with influence not just in the Middle East, but also in the African region as well as in the Mediterranean region. So Egypt is a very influential country, and therefore an important post for Singapore, an important post for me personally. So this is what attracted me here professionally. But also, from the cultural point of view, historical point of view, it's very interesting because of the long history that Egypt has, the civilization and all the sites, the marvelous sites that you have here in Egypt. It's a privilege to be serving in Egypt, and then you can explore all these sites like the pyramids, the temples in Luxor, Aswan, Abu Simbel. You can take your time and study all these sites and visit them personally. So I think it's a real pleasure for me to be here.
Egypt's culture has thousands of years of recorded history. In every major city, you'll find traditions that remain from the time of the pharaohs. Cruising on the Nile. Explore Egypt.
Well, I think Egyptian food is very tasty, and I enjoy very much, for example, every weekend I will go out and have a fool and tamaya for breakfast. And also I enjoy things like, kofta and shish tawuk and the baladi, aish baladi. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's really wonderful to taste all these all these food. And it's enriches my experience here to be able to taste all these different foods in Egypt.
Explore Egypt. From Cairo to Alexandria, Sharm el-Sheikh to Hurghada. Try to discern the mystery of the Sphinx. Meditate on the symmetry of the pyramids.
In fact, I find that Egypt and Singapore have the same idea here, the same policies to promote tolerance and moderation, and as well as peace among the different ethnic races and among the different religions. So here in Egypt, you promote peace and tolerance between the Muslims and the Christians and the Jews, and also between the different communities here. And likewise in Singapore, we promote tolerance and moderation among the Muslims, Christians, and Buddhists, and Hindus in Singapore. So I think this is one area where we work on very closely. In fact, we have 200 students from Singapore here studying at Al-Azhar, and they are here to learn about the moderate Islamic faith that is taught at Al-Azhar University. And they will bring these teachings back to Singapore to become more to teach our Muslim population to be more moderate and more open to other faiths and religions. Likewise, our government is also encouraging the Christians and the Buddhists and the Hindus in Singapore to be more moderate and tolerant as well. Because from time to time there are, preachers of these different religions who are also espousing conservative and not so tolerant teachings. So we don't just focus on the Muslim religion, but also on the other religions to make sure that all religions promote the message of peace and tolerance in Singapore.
The sky is always the limit if we talk about the future prospects of cooperation between Egypt and Singapore.
Well, I would say that, as you have said, the sky is the limit. We will work, we will continue to work, even though we are the fourth biggest investor from East Asia into Egypt. And even though our trade figures have registered more than 50% increase over the last year. We will continue to advance relations in all fields, not just political, not just economic, but also cultural, tourism, academic, and so on. We will work in all areas to improve relations between our two countries.
The 10th of October 2023 marks Nile TV International's 30th anniversary. What's your message on that special day for Nile TV and Nile TV family?
So I wish Nile TV success, continued success, and a happy 30th anniversary.
Your Excellency, Ambassador Dominic Goh, Ambassador of the Republic of Singapore to Egypt, thank you so much for joining us here on Nile TV International.
Thank you so much, and I wish you and your viewers peace, happiness, and good health.
And thank you, dear viewers, for joining us. That was Exclusive with Taghreed Hussein. Next Monday, another edition and a distinctive guest. Until then.